Today we're going to talk about a topic that happened in Mansfield, Texas. The crisis at Mansfield with the integration problem that occurred at Mansfield Public High School back in 1956, after the Brown versus Board of Education decision was decided 2 years prior. First, we're going to look at where Mansfield is located and what their current high school looks like, as well as talk about their mission statement and their motto. We'll then travel back into what the Mansfield Public School looked like back in 1950, what happened during that time, and then move on to the I.M. Terrell High School in Fort Worth, where all the African Americans went to school after primary school when they couldn't attend a public school in Mansfield. Then we'll discuss the actual crisis that occurred and show pictures of what happened during that time. So first, let's talk about Mansfield. Mansfield, Texas is located in Tarrant County. It is between Fort Worth and Dallas. And Mansfield has been around for over 100 years. It started as a small community of farmers and has grown into a suburban city of over 73,000 people. The new Mansfield High School was built in 2002. Prior to that, most of the students attended the old Mansfield High School. The new high school has a thriving, diverse student body, including whites, blacks, and Asians, and Hispanics. And their current mission statement is, Mansfield High School will create a positive culture of learning built on relationships and high expectations that will encourage students to take ownership of their education to reach their full potential. And their current school motto is, where every story matters. But 64 years ago, this was not the case. 64 years ago, it wasn't every person's story that mattered. It was only that of the white students. In the early 1950s, Mansfield Public School, which was the name back then, was a designated school for all students. No matter the age, no matter the grade, every student went to this school. It wasn't until 1953 that they had built elementary schools for the younger children and designated the public school as a high school. All these schools were all white schools. No African Americans could attend them. They did have one colored school in Mansfield, but it only went up to 8th grade. After 8th grade, if any African American students wanted to further their education into high school, they would have to travel outside their community to do so. Majority of the students in Mansfield decided that they would go to I.M. Terrell High School, which was located in Fort Worth, and had to travel by public bus, as the school board did not allow them to have school buses to take them to and from the schools. After they would travel from the school bus, they would have to walk another additional 20 blocks to get to their school. This caused a lot of problems for them wanting to be interactive with school because they could not do any extracurricular activities or any groups after school due to the time it would take for them to get home. Many of the African American students didn't mind traveling to I.M. Terrell High School. They actually enjoyed going to the school and thought it was better for them to be there. However, the Mansfield community parents, the African American parents, didn't see the benefit of them traveling so far, as they were always getting home late and they couldn't do what they wanted to do outside or inside of school activities. So the African American community came together and decided that it was time to integrate. The problem was the white community, as well as the Governor Shivers, Alan Shivers, and the superintendent and school board president did not see that integration as a positive thing for their school. They felt that they needed to have an additional time to get the integration process underway, and had to allow for them to build a different curriculum for the African American students. Plus, they also felt that they had paid for the students to go to I.M. Terrell High School $75 per student for the school year. So in 1956, when they were told they had to integrate, they decided they wanted to take a chance at appealing the decision at least 1 year. The problem with that was the African American community did not want to wait. So a lawsuit was filed against the school district called Jackson versus Rawdon, and 3 students were named as the plaintiffs. Charles and Floyd Jackson, or Charles and Floyd Moody, and Nathaniel Jackson. None of these 3 children really wanted to go to that in Mansfield Public High School, but they decided that if that's what their parents wanted to do, they would try. So after the decision was decided that they would be allowed to integrate, after appeal, the Mansfield High School and the white community opted for a more different route of protesting and of boycotting the integration. So on August 17th, it was awarded that the 3 children and other African American students would be allowed to register for Mansfield High School on August 17th, 1956. But on the days that they were allowed to register, which was August 30th through through September 4th, there were protests. There were mobs of people standing outside the school. Mansfield businesses shut down, and they had people blocking all entrances to the school, not allowing them to enter to register. They also had black effigies hanging on streetlights and one in front of the high school. This was a big point for them because the African American students didn't feel that they were safe registering at that school. So they decided to go back to I.M. Terrell High School and finish their education there, first due to the safety of themselves and not getting hurt by trying to register at an all-white school. The interesting part about the crisis at Mansfield is it happened a year before Little Rock, Arkansas. And the other thing is that they chose Mansfield in Texas to integrate because they had a small community of African Americans, and they felt that if they integrated a smaller community first, it'd be easier to integrate the larger cities such as Fort Worth and Dallas later. The problem was that the small community was very strong in their opinion. They did not believe that integration would work. They thought it was going to harm, not hurt their children on the white community side, and so they decided to stop it as best they could. And they were successful for 10 years. Mansfield Public High School did not integrate until 1965. And the only reason they did integrate was because the federal government told them that they had to integrate or they would get their funding pulled. And Mansfield Public High School could not afford to have their funding pulled, so they chose to go the other route and finally integrate. Now that they are integrated, Mansfield High School is a flourishing school with a diverse community of students, ranging, as I stated earlier, from whites, African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians. They have a high academic standard and a very good athletics teams as well. And they do very well for themselves. But it took 10 years, from 1956 to 1965, for them to allow integration into that Mansfield Public School. Just like Mansfield, I.M. Terrell High School is a very proud high school. They have a rich history. Even today, when you walk onto the school property, the first thing you encounter is a plaque that tells the story of I.M. Terrell High School. If you walk to your left a little bit, you can see bricks where students engrave their names and the dates they went to school there. It's very empowering to know that while this school is no longer an all African American school and has been an elementary school and now a STEM school, that it still believes in its history and what it accomplished and how it was successful in helping to change the views of integration. Mansfield, Texas is a rich community. It started as a small farming community and has now grown and continues to grow into a large, diverse community. But what once was a small community trying to protect its Texans' rights is now flourishing with all types.